What is up, everybody? This is Adam. Welcome back to Fouled Out. We have reached Super Bowl 59 between the Eagles and the Chiefs in New Orleans. Matt is coming on in just a moment to talk about the game. We're going to talk about on field stuff, narratives, make picks, all the fun Super Bowl stuff. And we might talk a little bit about Luka Doncic because it's been about a week and I can't get over it. I can't get over it. We dropped a pod right after the trade happened last weekend, little emergency pod for you guys. If you missed that, go back and check that out. We might touch on that again today. But before we get started, just a reminder, you can reach out to us, fouledoutsports@gmail.com. Really appreciate you guys listening, and we always love to hear from you. Let us know how you're feeling about the Super Bowl. We'll talk about it today, but there seems to be a bit of a general malaise that we're not used to with the Super Bowl, partially because the Chiefs are looking to win their third straight, and also because we just saw Chiefs Eagles 2 years ago. But it could still be a fun game. Let us know how you're feeling and who you're picking to win this one. But for now, let's grab Matt. Let's talk Super Bowl 59. Let's go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Oakland County Politico, the number one Oakland County politics podcast in the greater Metro Detroit area. Matt, how are you doing, buddy? You ready to talk some Oakland County politics?
Hell yeah. Even though I have no idea what's going on in Oakland County.
Yeah, because you don't live here. I was trying to think about uh, what would be the most boring thing we could talk about on this podcast today. And I was like, yeah, like
It's
local.
probably the Super Bowl.
I was going to say, I came up with local politics, but then decided that's probably more exciting than the Super Bowl. So we should probably just stick to the Super Bowl because we don't want the listeners getting too excited and then demanding more Oakland County Politico next week.
Exactly. There's only so much of that to go around.
It's it's a once a year pod on Super Bowl Friday. This is going to come out on the 7th of February, 2 days before the Super Bowl. Super Bowl 59 between the Chiefs and the Eagles. The Chiefs are currently favored by one. It was 1.5. I've seen it 1.5 certain places. I've seen it one, but it's right in that range. Matt, last week after the AFC and NFC championship game, I came on the pod and started making the case for why I was kind of excited to watch the Super Bowl. I was like, oh, I think it's going to be a good game. These are the two best teams, like blah, blah, blah. And over the last week or so, I've really realized that I was just like snorting the copium. Like,
There
because
you go.
I am not, I'm not super excited for the game, which is a really weird place to be with the Super Bowl.
No, I kind of just accepted that as soon as that was solidified. Um, I mean, I'm gonna have some brisket on Sunday night, so I think that's gonna carry me through. But I'm not expecting it to be the kind of game that I'm particularly excited about.
But to be fair, what was the last Super Bowl where you didn't black out?
It's
And
been
you
a
watched the
few.
whole game.
It's I don't know that I've actually blacked out since the Falcons.
Yeah. I'm just kidding. I just remember the Falcons game. Like we were talking the next day and you're like, "Wait,
We
the Patriots won?" And I was like,
yeah.
"Yeah." I was like, "It's the greatest game ever." And you're like, I don't remember any of
Oh God, we were trolling the Patriots so hard at halftime. So hard.
the I think was it today? It was either yeah, it was today was the 8-year anniversary of that game. And it just brings back so many wonderful memories. And the number one thing I remember is how many text messages I was getting in the first half of that game compared to how few text messages I got the following weeks. Like people didn't talk to me for weeks. And I was over at my parents with a bunch of my buddies, and Kevin and I were driving back to our house in Dearborn after. And I looked at Kevin and I was like, Kevin, this is the world I wanted to live in. Where Tom Brady, that was Tom Brady's fifth, which surpassed Joe Montana for most all time, Joe Montana and Terry Bradshaw. And I was like, this is it. This is the world that I wanted to live in. Tom Brady has the most rings. He just had the greatest comeback of all time. This will never be topped. Until now, where the Chiefs are trying to become the first team to ever three-peat as Super Bowl champions. Which
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that like, I think this is the thing that gets kind of like mixed up with history is that there's this whole debate right now about like who's a better dynasty and like, oh, Patrick Mahomes is going to achieve this three-peat. That's something Tom Brady never did, but Tom Brady has 28-3 and like blah, 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 blah. But I don't think that achieving something historical takes away from other historical achievements. Like it's this weird thing that people do where
Yeah.
they want to make, you know, someone achieving something potentially erase what someone else achieved. And it's like the Patriots beating the Falcons after 28-3 does not take away from like the Dolphins going 14-0 and being the only undefeated
Yeah.
team ever. And like, I don't know, it's silly, but like, I feel like people are trying to entertain themselves with silly stuff leading up to this game because the excitement for the actual Super Bowl is at an all-time low right now.
Goes along with that, like, to me, kind of like nonsensical argument of like, just shut up and enjoy greatness argument. Like, I don't care if it's great if it's not enjoyable. Like, it's in a weird way, and you're gonna laugh when I say this. It's weirdly reminiscent of like how Emmitt Smith got the rushing record, right? It's not impressive to me. It's not enjoyable. Like yes, there's still merit to them doing it. Like it's different from Emmett in that way, but like I don't really care because it just hasn't, especially like this last year, has not been entertaining.
You know what it reminds me of is when we saw Golden State play the Cleveland Cavaliers four
Mhm.
straight times in the
Yeah.
finals or whatever it was, where it's just the exact same thing every single year. And it's like, okay, it's boring. It's played out. We've seen it already. Like, we're just ready for something new. And
Hmm.
the thing that's weird about it to me, though, is I feel like a really good villain is good for sports. And
Yes.
I look at the Chiefs and wonder, like, why are they not more of a villain? And I'm not saying I like love the Chiefs or anything, but I I don't think the Chiefs hate is anywhere close to the way that people hated the Patriots during the heyday of the Patriots. And I think like part of it is the attitude of the Patriots. Like, you know, you have Bill Belichick,
Hmm.
who's like a curmudgeon. You have Tom Brady, who is just like the golden boy, like perfect, dates the supermodel, makes millions of dollars, like always gets like really lucky at the end of games. Uh, or at least there's a lot where you could say that
I
Tom
was
Brady
gonna
got
say
pretty lucky.
that one can definitely go to Mahomes.
Yeah. Well, but people look at things like the Malcolm Butler interception against Seattle
Yeah.
and they're like, oh my God, he's so lucky. And it's like, no, they were drilling that play back in
Yeah.
training camp. But like
Hmm.
people will make excuses against things they don't like. But The
And
Patriots,
Matt
like,
Patricia will make sure you know that they were drilling that play.
yeah, that because it's the only
Yeah.
good thing he's ever done.
I saved
But
my best play call for the Super Bowl.
I just feel like the Patriots were way bigger like villains to people. And at least when the villain keeps winning, then it's like fun to hate them, and to like root against them and stuff. But I feel like at least where I am at with the Chiefs is I'm just very apathetic to what's going on right now. And for the NFL, I feel like that's the worst place for people to be is when they're just like, I don't really care.
Yeah, I mean, and I think the thing is to you, if you kind of look at them and compare them, like, yeah, Bill Belichick is like a massive curmudgeon, and then you look at Andy Reid and like he kind of just looks like a, you know, Midwestern grandpa who really, really overly appreciates cheeseburgers. And I mean, people have kind of started to turn on Mahomes a little bit more over the last couple of years, but I mean, even just to like think about how he sounds, right? Like the whole Kermit thing, like it kind of just adds levity to when you think about him. So it like you're starting from this place of like more like this more fun place with them, right? Than like where you were with the Patriots. And so I mean, it is again, like I said, for Mahomes starting to turn a little bit. His brother didn't help at all. Um,
Or his wife.
yeah, just
Yeah, I feel like with the Patriots there was like this mystique because they kept everything in house
yeah,
and they were very like unknowable.
yeah,
Whereas you have like Mahomes and Kelsey and Reed are like in every single commercial. And like,
yep,
could you ever imagine Bill Belichick being on a commercial while he was coaching the Pats and being like,
yeah,
Bundle Rooski,
yeah.
you
Hmm.
know?
You know, like for me, that actually like pushes me more in the like the wrong direction. Like I just like I already have to watch you go to the Super Bowl every year. I don't need to be oversaturated with you yelling Bundle Rooski
Yeah.
like 72 times a week.
Well, you have that. You have the Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce thing. Like,
Hmm.
I think a lot of the Chief stuff is just more annoying than it is
Yep.
like,
Hmm.
oh, I'm pissed at them. And like,
Yeah.
plus the Patriots had the, you know, various scandals that
I
people will
was gonna
point
say
to and like
Deflategate and
completely
the recording
bogus.
the Jets.
Okay, one of those was completely bogus and made up to go after our quarterback, but maybe not
Right,
the
like
recording.
credible or not, like it made it into the zeitgeist and like
Well, people
that
still point to it because they don't understand like how gases work
like I
when
was
it
gonna
gets
say
cold
basic
outside.
physics.
Yeah, noble. I think
Like
it's like noble gases. Like you just don't understand how air pressure works, and people, it's just crazy because I got in my car the other day and my tire was low, and I was like, God damn it! Doesn't Tom Brady have a Super Bowl to announce? He took the time to come all the way to my house and let air out of my tire again. He does this every winter. I don't understand it. It's like Groundhog's Day.
yeah.
Once a winter, Tom Brady comes over to your house and lets the air out of your tires because that's how it works to these people. I'm not still mad about it, but yeah, I feel like the instead of being like the evil empire, like the Patriots were, the Chiefs are more just kind of like obnoxious, and people just don't want them to win, so
Hmm.
they'll go away. Uh,
Yeah.
and I have bad news for everybody. One, they're gonna win this game. Two, even if they did lose, they're not going away. they're
No.
they're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Um, but are you? So I'm gonna go out on a limb here and guess that we're both picking the Chiefs to win this game.
Yeah.
No point in dragging it out. I think the pretty much the only argument I have that the Chiefs won't win this game is that absolutely everyone is picking them to win this game. I have not seen a single podcast or host of anything pick the Eagles, except if I go on DraftKings Sportsbook and it tells me that 55% of the people betting have bet on the Eagles.
It's almost certainly only because of plus money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not plus a lot. It's like plus 102.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Vegas is saying this is going to be a pretty close game.
Yeah. I mean, I don't doubt it because, I mean, who have the Chiefs blown out this year? Like,
Yeah,
it's,
that's the
it's
one thing
not,
I will say for the Chiefs is that like at least every one of their games is like I know you said you were bored by it, but at least they're all close. At least they're all
yeah.
like I don't expect this game to be like 35-14 either way,
Yeah.
you know. Do you think if this game starts off and the Eagles start like kicking Kansas City's ass, would that get you more into it?
I mean, I would definitely be pulling out the DraftKings app and putting money on Kansas City with
I feel like that's
with
the
the odds swinging that way.
yeah, I feel like that's the biggest problem in all of this is the feeling of inevitability.
Yep.
And this was the whole thing with Kevin Durant on the Warriors while we're talking about all the dynasties and all that stuff is that Kevin Durant going to the Warriors added a sense of inevitability
Hmm.
to the NBA where it's just like they just won 73 games and now they have Kevin Durant. And there was a novelty to it for a little bit, being like, oh, wow, watch Steph Curry and Kevin Durant together. How are
Yeah.
they like, what's going to go on there?
Yeah. I mean,
And
all the consecutive games of like 30 plus assists.
yeah. And then all of
Like,
a sudden it wears off though
yeah.
after a while where you're just like,
Hmm.
okay, when you know what's going to happen, like it's not fun to go back and watch old games all the time. I have fun
Yeah.
going back and watching 28-3 sometimes. But like if you turn on your TV and it's like, oh, hey, there's a Michigan versus Michigan State game on from like 2007 and you know who's going to win. It's not as fun as watching
Yeah.
like Michigan versus Michigan State like this year. So I don't know, man. That's the fun part about sports is that like anything can happen. And when you take that away, it's very boring. And I feel like that's where this general malaise is coming in, where people are like, oh, well, they're just going to win anyway. And that if this had been like Eagles Bills, people would be really excited. And I feel
Yeah.
like I do feel like what will happen though is people are going to watch this anyway. Doesn't matter. People are always going to watch the Super Bowl. And if it's close in the fourth quarter or the Eagles are winning by a couple touchdowns, I think people are going to start getting really into it and be like, oh, maybe only for Kansas City to rip their hearts out. But, if it's the opposite, if Kansas City is up by 14 in the first or second quarter, it's just going to be like, okay, like, yeah, people will do other things at their Super Bowl parties besides watch the Super Bowl.
You have brisket and a keg of beer, you know, football is kind of just in the background.
Yeah. So say that you were going to pick Philly to win this game. What is the case for Philly to actually win the Super Bowl?
Philly's defensive line dominates the game, and Saquon keeps Patrick Mahomes on the sideline. I
Yeah.
mean, it's kind of the game plan that everyone knows they need to execute in order to beat the Chiefs. I will say that at the very least, the Eagles have the capacity to do that.
Yeah, I think it's basically the it's basically a replay of Tampa
Hmm.
Bay versus Kansas City in the Super Bowl from years ago,
Yeah.
where they had pressure on Mahomes with just the defensive line, and they're like dropping guys back into coverage, and
Yeah.
Mahomes is running for his life, and just like nobody can get open. And I think that's more doable now than it seemed like it was back then. And like I know that Tampa Bay did it, obviously, but when you look at how Kansas City's offense matches up with Philly's defense, like Philly's defense is nasty and very talented. And theoretically, looking at who is going to be catching the ball for Kansas City, it's like, I don't know how Kansas City's going to score points in this game. Jalen Carter is a monster, and Philly has a good pass rush. And like, so all the pieces are there to do that. But also, you have Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, and they're
Yep.
just going to figure out that the one thing that is really amazing about the Chiefs to me is that no matter who's catching the ball, kind of like no matter what's going on, they always just find the thing they need to do to win. And like people can get into the whole refs discussion too, but like they just find ways to do these things. Like the AFC championship, all of a sudden Juju Smith Schuster has like 230+ yard catches
Yeah.
after being completely useless in New England. Or like last year in the Super Bowl, McCole Hardman, who couldn't even get on the field for the Jets, is back and catches like a
Yeah.
huge bomb for a touchdown.
Well,
So
and are you really gonna sit there and tell me that Nuke isn't gonna have a couple of like massively impactful plays in this game?
someone will. And that, but like the thing
Yeah.
with the Chiefs is you never know who it's going to be now because it's not
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill and prime Kelsey, but there's always someone. It's like, oh, 49-yard touchdown pass to Noah Gray. So
Yeah.
when people are like, how are they going to score points in this game? I'm like, because they have Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, and they're going to
Yeah.
scheme stuff up, and they're going to figure stuff out, and they're just going to find a way to do it.
Yeah. I mean, there's gonna be like a like third or fourth and 8 where DeAndre Hopkins lines up in the slot and he gets exactly 8 because that's what he does, and no one is big enough or fast enough or the right combination of that to stop him in the slot.
Or they get 7 and it gets spotted for 8 yards. That always seems to happen. Now, the one thing about the Chiefs that actually does remind me of the Patriots dynasty is just how malleable they are and how many different ways they can win games.
Yeah.
Where I thought it really stood out in the 49ers Super Bowl last year, where we're looking at the game and it's like, God, Kansas City's rush defense is bad. And the 49ers are so good at running the ball. And it's like, yeah, like over the course of a season, they may be good at some stuff and not good at other stuff. But from a game to game basis, especially in the playoffs,
Yeah.
they're so adaptable and can beat you in so many ways where honestly, it wouldn't shock me if like Isaiah Pacheco ran for 150 and 3 touchdowns. And that's how they won
Yeah.
this game. It's because just shit like that just happens. They figure it out.
Especially when you are talking about the Super Bowl, whether it's Andy Reid or Spags, you give them 2 weeks to just hyper focus on one team, they're going to have a good plan for them. Like they might not necessarily entirely remove any weaknesses that they have on that defense, but they're going to shore it up and they're not going to make it so that that thing doesn't individually kill them.
Yeah. Also, the Chiefs are just going to chief.
Yeah.
If you go back to the last time these two teams played in the Super Bowl, it's like the weird fumble by Jalen Hurts that Nick Bolton takes back for a touchdown.
Yeah.
And it's is it a holding call on whoever, I forget who the corner was, the very end of that game where they get the first down from the holding
Yeah.
call and just kneel and then kick the field goal and then it's over. So, yeah, we're both picking the Chiefs. It feels pretty inevitable. Um, Let me ask you a question that you will not hear on any other podcast this week. I guarantee it. everybody's talking about what winning the Super Bowl will do for Patrick Mahomes' legacy. If he has a three-peat and he has four
Yep.
Super Bowls and that ties him for second most all time. What do you think this does to Patrick Mahomes' legacy if he loses this Super Bowl? And does it matter to you? Does it hurt it?
I don't think it does anything, right? I think because he has done everything that he's done so young, he has been given like so much grace that like you would kind of have to lose a couple before anyone starts to like say anything about it, right? I mean, like the last playoff game that he lost was to Joe Burrow, and Joe Burrow hasn't won a playoff game in a while.
Mm-hmm. So I don't necessarily think it hurts it where like if he loses this, we're going to come back next season and be like, oh, he can't get it done anymore, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But I do think that losing this game takes away the extremely unique opportunity he has to do something that nobody has ever done before
Yeah.
with the three-peat. So like that sucks because
It
it's
it'll
never going
it'll
to
be a
happen
missed
again.
opportunity, but I don't think it'll be one of those things where like it's a black mark on like his resume, right? Like it just I don't think it hurts, but obviously there's plenty to be gained.
Yeah. When we're talking about all-time legacy debates and stuff like that,
Mhm.
you do have to take advantage of these opportunities while they're there because I will
Yeah.
remind people the Patriots won 3 Super Bowls in Tom Brady's first 4 years in the league
Yeah.
and then didn't win another one for 10 years. When a
Yeah.
team has this much success, it makes it seem like it's easy and that they're going to be back again. But there's no guarantee that we see the Chiefs in another
No.
Super Bowl for a long time. Could
Yeah.
we? Like, sure, yeah, we might be watching them in a
Yeah.
fourth straight next year based on
Yeah.
everything in
And
the AFC.
honestly,
But
like and until proven otherwise, we're gonna expect it. But that doesn't mean that it is guaranteed.
yeah, so it's to me, it's more a combination of like if you do lose this, now you're 3-2 in Super Bowls, and
Yeah.
honestly, the thing about Super Bowls is that nobody really gives a shit how many you've been to. It's only how many
Yeah.
you've won. Same thing with
Yeah.
like NBA championships and stuff. It's like, oh, cool, LeBron's been to 10. He's only won 4. So,
Yeah.
uh, if you're 3-2 and then you don't make it back either ever again or for a long time,
Hmm.
I do think that'll have an effect on how people see him long term. Because right now people are like, he's undoubtedly the second best quarterback of all time, and he's only chasing Brady. But if he's 3-2 and 3 years from now he hasn't made it back to another one,
Yeah.
people might be sitting here like, oh, like, maybe he's not better than Joe Montana. Or
Hmm.
maybe he's like more on the Peyton Manning level, or like, that becomes a
Yes.
debate again.
I will say, and this is kind of getting the semantics of it, but that is also like the basis for this entire conversation is semantics. Is that if that is the case, it is the performance in future years that has hurt his legacy far more than losing this Super Bowl would.
That's fair. It's not that it matters anyway, because he's going to win
Yeah.
the Super Bowl.
Yep.
The Chiefs are going to win the Super Bowl. You want to know
And then
why?
he's gonna win the next four.
Yeah. The Chiefs will win the Super Bowl because they have Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah,
There's
that's the
no
rule.
there's no in-depth analysis needed. We don't need to go and be like, here's what Andy Reid's going to do to attack Vic Fangio's defense and blah blah blah. They have Patrick Mahomes. That means you get to win the Super Bowl. Since the picks aren't much of a mystery and there's not a ton of super interesting things to talk about, um, every year we like to talk about prop bets. And some of my favorite prop bets are the novelty prop bets, where it's like, what color is the Gatorade going to be that's dumped on the winning coach? Uh, what's the coin toss going to be? How long is the national anthem going to be? But betting on those every single year gets boring. So what I do every single year on this podcast is make up my own prop bets, and then we bet on those. So, Matt, I have 5 prop bets for you that we can make picks on. Starting with prop bet number 1. Whose box do we see more on the Super Bowl broadcast? Taylor Swift or Donald Trump? But who do we see more during the broadcast?
Uh, I'm gonna push. I
Ooh,
think it's gonna be
even.
even.
Ooh, I'm I'm gonna go with Taylor. I think we see Taylor
I think
more.
her box is prettier.
I'd rather see Taylor's box for sure, especially if Caitlin Clark is inside of it. Prop
I'm
bet
sure she's
number
happy to be there.
prop bet number 2 before I get us canceled. Does Fox?
You fucking sucked me into this one too.
It's the best. I sucked you into Taylor's box. Prop bet number 2. The Super Bowl is on Fox. It's being announced by Tom Brady. Does Fox show a chasing Brady graphic about Patrick Mahomes? And if so, bonus points for how does Tom Brady react to said graphic?
Definitely they're gonna do some sort of chasing Brady or chasing Brady adjacent graphic. I don't know exactly what tack they're gonna go with it, but like there's no way that Fox is gonna pass up that Tom will be as politically correct as he can be, but you will hear some hesitance in his tone of voice.
I also think they show the chasing Brady graphic, but I my side bet on this is that it's going to be something really stupid where it's like climbing Goat Mountain and Patrick Mahomes is
Oh
like a
my
little
God.
like ice climber and he's like he passes like Peyton Manning and Joe Montana and then like they see Brady at the top and he's like climbing the mountain or like something it's always some you can't predict it,
Yeah.
you know, or it's going to be like they're all in race cars and like Peyton Manning and Joe Montana's race cars like fade away and Patrick Mahomes is driving up behind Brady. It's going to be something stupid like that.
They'll find some way to like squeeze in like the broken down cars in Detroit in there somehow, just to like throw random shade at Detroit.
Like,
That always
haha.
pissed me off. Like every Detroit game, they could not resist doing that shit.
They definitely do it. Some combination of
Yeah,
that. And I think Tom Brady's response is something along the lines of like, oh, he's got a long way to go, but if he gets there, I'll be happy for him and I'm rooting for him.
yeah.
I think that's it. Prop bet number 3. Which industry has the best commercial?
Sticking with insurance.
Strong. Is it a Chiefs commercial or is there another one that's
Oh
good?
God. No, no, it's not a Chiefs commercial. I don't think their commercials are really all that good, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
I think they rely too much on their star power and not enough on like talented writers. So
I think Farmers has the best
yeah,
commercials.
yeah, yeah,
State Farm has the Chiefs and like Geico
yeah,
has the gecko and
yeah,
flow
yeah.
and
I
all
know.
that, but like
Yeah.
State Farm or God damn it. Farmers has
Mhm.
what's his face? J.K. Simmons, what used to be in the Farmers
Yep.
commercials, and those were always
Hmm.
funny. So I'm gonna go with the alcohol industry. There, if you saw the odds, it's probably like alcohol minus 125, insurance plus 105, and then like
Yeah. I,
movies and healthcare and
I hope you're right, but like I feel like it's been a while since alcohol has really nailed it.
I feel like it's been a while since the Super Bowl commercials were like
Yeah.
particularly good.
Yeah.
because they get like leaked on YouTube before the game, and people have like already
Yep.
seen all of. I never
Hmm.
watched them before the game,
Yeah.
but um,
No. Like insurance has been the one that has consistently put out bangers because they put out bangers throughout the year before the Super Bowl.
just
So,
good at commercial.
because they
Um,
have to, because it's a fucking sham.
how is insurance so good at commercial? Why other industry not good at commercial? Why
Yeah.
insurance commercial good?
Need homeowners insurance in Florida? Never mind the fact that we are not going to cover your burned down home.
It's the funny thing about insurance is it'll just be like the funniest commercial you've ever seen, and you're like, "What is this a commercial for?" And they're like, "Life insurance." You're like, "Oh God." Prop bet number 4. How many times do the refs completely bail out Kansas City in this game? Or I put it
I
more
guess,
politically correct. How many times is there a controversial call that favors Kansas City?
are we saying like blatantly incorrect call that benefits Kansas City?
Yes.
Okay.
No, I mean if it's like a pass interference, or if it's a like roughing the passer call that is deserved, that's
Yeah.
not bailing out. That's just stupid. But if it's
Yeah.
like the Houston game where the roughing the passer call is not deserved at all and they throw the flag, then that
Yeah.
one counts.
Yeah. I mean, if we're talking black and white, I'm gonna say three true bailouts.
Okay. I'm gonna go with 2. My bonus point here is that one of them is gonna basically ice the game for Kansas City. Bonus question for this one. Does Mike Pereira agree or disagree with the call when they ask him?
From what I've seen consistently, these guys have been consistently disagreeing with them. Like they're telling you on air, "Hey, that don't make sense." So I'm gonna stick with that.
Yeah, I actually agree with you that they will disagree. And I think it's the funniest thing ever when they're like, we're going to bring in Mike Pereira. And he's just like, I don't know what the fuck just happened, Tom. Like, this is fucking bullshit. Because it used to be like every single controversial call, they'd bring in the former ref and he'd be like, oh, yeah, see what they're seeing on the field. It's a good call, blah, blah, blah. Now, like, even Mike Pereira is getting pissed off, which is hilarious. And he's
Yeah.
just like, that was the worst fucking call I've ever seen. I don't know. I don't even know what we're supposed to do anymore. Let's play flag football. I hate this. I'm like,
Like
damn, heel turn from Mike Pereira on the refs organization.
just who would have thought that like Mike Pereira and Dean Blandino would turn into the heroes that we need?
I guess it's a face turn. I guess a heel
Yeah.
turn is the bad way. So going against
Yeah.
the refs is a face turn. Not what I expected in 2025 is for
Right.
me to enjoy Mike Pereira and Dean Blandino. And Mike Pereira's on Fox, right?
Yeah.
Honestly, I never know. And then they call somebody in and I'm like, I don't know, that seems right. Like
Yeah.
watching like ESPN and they're like, we have John McGovern, the former ref from the 1970s. And they're like, John, what'd you think about that call? And he's like, oh, it's bullshit. Like, okay. I'm like, yeah, that seems right. Last prop bet. Hmm. And yes, here is like minus 10,000. Does Kendrick Lamar call Drake a pedophile during the Super Bowl halftime
100%.
show? He's gonna do it.
100%. Like you think that he's going to miss the opportunity to do that at the biggest music event of the year? No way. No way. Especially after Drake went to the point of like taking things into the courts. You know he's gonna bury him.
I think I don't think he'll say the word pedophile, but I think they'll get to that part. They are going to play the song.
No.
They've already said they're going to play the song
Yeah.
in some form or another.
No.
Uh,
The worst part for Drake is that the whole crowd is gonna be yelling A minor.
that's going to be the thing is that he's gonna get to like some point in the song and he's gonna be like certified lover boy and he's gonna like hold the mic away and the whole Super Bowl crowd is gonna yell certified pedophile. Or
Yeah.
they're gonna try to strike a chord and the whole crowd he's not gonna say it, but the whole crowd's gonna go A minor, which I'm looking forward to. But I always think it's funny when they have guys like Kendrick Lamar do the Super Bowl halftime show. Like they had the weekend do it. Um,
Yeah.
Whenever I can't even keep straight like who even did it last year. But you have these guys who like every song that they pick to play is gonna have to be heavily edited because like the language in the song cannot be played during the Super Bowl halftime show.
Right.
And so it's just kind of like funny when they have like they're like, here's Kendrick Lamar, and they're like, Kendrick, what song can you sing? It's like there none of his songs do not contain swear words
Yeah.
and other words. Um so it'll be interesting to see how they do that. I think it's a lot easier to have like Bruno Mars and Katy Perry play it, where it's just like, oh yes, these are a bunch of like fun songs I grew up with, and I don't know. I love Kendrick. Kendrick's my favorite rapper, and I'm looking forward to it. But I do think it's going to be. I'm very interested to see how they play Not Like Us.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if they start with it or end with it. We'll find out.
By the way, I am sending you a link to a stand-up by Josh Johnson where he talks about this exact thing. So,
Oh, good. I'll watch it when we're
uh,
done here. I
yeah,
That's pretty much it for the Super Bowl. I think we're not
yeah,
even like at an hour yet, and it's just like, yeah,
yeah.
this is the
Uh,
Super Bowl. I think it's a reflection of
I
the game
I
itself.
have a little bit of a rant.
Do it. I was gonna bring up something else, so do your rant.
Yeah. So, did you hear what the NFL has decided they are going to remove for this Super Bowl?
Yes, and I I was gonna talk about this earlier because it was the most clickbaity title I have ever seen in a news story.
Yeah.
You're talking about them removing the words "end racism" from the end
Yep.
zone, right?
Hmm.
So I saw that there was an article going around that said NFL chooses to remove the words "end racism" from the Super Bowl uh, end zones,
Hmm.
and that's all it said. But it turned out that the NFL offered teams the ability to use one of three stencils um, this year, and it was either "end racism," "choose love," or something else. I forget what the other one was. Um, and Kansas City had "choose love," and Philadelphia had "end racism."
Hmm.
So what they've decided to go, they voted on "choose love." So the end zones will say "choose love" instead of "end racism." But the outrage came because all of the news articles are just saying the NFL is getting
Yeah.
rid of the words "end racism" in the end zone.
Yeah.
I was like, this
Hmm.
is fake outrage.
It is. And like I will also note that like that is end racism is something that the NFL has marketed for years. Years. Like they've leaned heavily on that. For like their much needed good PR. And less than a month into the current political regime, they're like, mm, we're gonna back away from this. I wouldn't be surprised if in this upcoming season we end up seeing some of these players like putting out pieces in like the Players Tribune and stuff like that, or like if things really get worse by next fall, like teams literally taking the day off practice to like talk about the stuff that's going on because it does kind of feel like the NFL is backing away from like supporting players that want to, move society into a healthier space. So, I don't know. It just, I get that they voted on it, but it's also something that all of these teams have used like every week for years now.
Yeah, I end racism has been in the end zone of the Super Bowl since 2021.
Yep.
So it's been 4 Super Bowls and now
Yeah.
they're opting to change it. But I guess the excuse is that after all the tragedies that the country's
Yeah.
been through lately with like the wildfires in California and like all the stuff going on in Florida and all that, that they're like, well, we wanted to do something that's more representative of like blah blah blah. And it's like just weird that there's a news story that says Donald Trump is going to the
Yeah.
Super Bowl, and then the next day they're like, "Hey, we're getting rid of end racism."
Yeah. Yeah. No. And I mean, I think it was like earlier today, I saw that like one of the cabinet members wants Trump to look into prosecuting businesses that are still using DEI practices. And I'm like, I don't think that that's even legal.
They just get rid of the word "end." The end
Yeah.
zone just says racism. What I wanted to ask you is, we're sitting here. It's the Thursday before the Super Bowl. We're recording this. This will come out on Friday before the Super Bowl. What do you care more about right now, the Super Bowl or the Luka Doncic trade that just happened like a week ago?
I would say the Luka trade. I think it has far larger reaching implications. Honestly, it's fucked Dallas for years to come. Um, Especially seeing how LA gave a better package to someone else for a worse player.
They got they gave up Dalton Connect and like multiple future firsts and a pick swap for Mark Williams.
Yeah,
It's like
absolutely.
how did Dallas not get the pick swap?
Yeah.
But I was thinking of it like, we did the emergency pod on Sunday night after the trade. So you guys can go back and listen to like our feelings on the actual
Hmm.
trade. But I was thinking of it more from the perspective of like a lot of people were saying, why did the NBA schedule its trade deadline this same day, like on Super Bowl week?
Hmm.
And I've cared way more about the NBA trade deadline,
Yep.
especially with the Luka deal and then my team trading De'Aaron Fox and like all these other deals going on.
Yeah.
I've cared way more about that than anything from the Super Bowl. And I was thinking that like, football is the most popular sport with a bullet, and nothing
Hmm.
will ever beat football. But the one advantage the NBA has on every single other league is the movement of their star players from team to team.
Yeah.
And like you can debate, and we've debated on this pod before whether player empowerment is a good thing or not, and if it's gone too far. But the NBA's ability to capture headlines with players demanding trades, like Myles Garrett, one of the best pass rushers in the entire
Hmm.
league, said that he wants to be traded from the Browns this week. And I feel like nobody cares because it's like, maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. Like,
Yeah.
we'll see, how big of a deal is it if it actually happens?
Hmm.
Um, but like when a superstar in the NBA demands a trade, it feels like the world stops. And it's
Yeah.
like, and I know Luka didn't demand a trade, but
No, it was the opposite.
which is batshit insane. But like, something like this happens. Like Luka gets traded. Patrick Mahomes will never get traded. Josh Allen will never get traded. Lamar Jackson will never get traded. Those guys that's their team for life.
Hmm.
Luka like not only gets traded, but a story comes out saying that now that Luka's not eligible for the Supermax, he may not sign an extension with the Lakers. Imagine if the Lakers trade for Luka Doncic and it's this huge fucking deal. And then Luka's like, you know what? I didn't have a say in this. I'm leaving and I'm
Yeah.
going where I want to go.
Yeah.
How batshit
It
insane is that?
it is batshit insane. And I think the reality too is I'm not saying that Luca doesn't understand the history and the allure that some people have with the Lakers, but Luca didn't grow up in the US. He didn't have the Lakers shoved down his throat the way that we did. Like, I don't know that he's going to have the same draw to playing there. Uh, it's like I'm sure there's things that he'll like there, but I can kind of almost see like him being a little bit like Jokic, where it's like, yeah, like I don't really need to be in LA to do the things that I want to do.
My guess is that he does re-sign with the Lakers or he signs an
Mhm.
extension. And that was a big part of the Mark Williams trade is apparently they went to Luca right after the trade and they're like, hey, what do you want us to do to kind of build this roster out for you?
Yeah,
And he's like, I need a rim running big who I could throw lobs
yeah.
to. And so they went and did the Mark Williams thing. And that's kind of why they overpaid for Mark Williams a little bit.
Hmm.
Because they're got to do all this stuff to make Luca happy because it's not
Yeah,
guaranteed Luca's going to resign. But like, just imagine if this summer Luca's like, yeah, I've decided I want to go play with my good friend Nikola Jokic in Denver.
yeah.
And now
Like,
all of a sudden, because of this whole Dallas fuckery, Denver ends up with like Luca and Jokic.
yeah,
And it's like a sign in trade with the Lakers. They're like, yeah, you can have like Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray
yeah. I
and
mean,
give
well,
us, you
and
know,
one of the good things for LA is that
it's in
he
LA.
is, well, he's really good friends with Dorian Finney-Smith, like really close friends. Uh, and so like I think that is potentially a really, really strong draw for him. And if they, I don't remember what his particular contract situation is, but uh, I mean, we've seen how much they would do to accommodate LeBron. So I don't imagine that uh they're gonna like just let Dorian Finney-Smith walk.
No, and
So
they'll do everything to accommodate Luca.
yeah,
The one thing I'm waiting for is when a superstar not only demands a trade for himself but his friend.
yeah.
Like Luca's like, I demand a trade to the Nuggets for me and Dorian Finney-Smith. And they're like, what the fuck? It just takes player empowerment to a whole new level where he's like, you have to trade both of us. And they're like, oh no. Me and my three closest friends want to be traded to a different team. Make it work. I could see that. But I mean I think
Giannis demands a trade for him and his brother.
they probably would be more than happy to ship his brother out if they weren't going to
Oh
have him
yeah,
anymore.
yeah.
But he's like, you got to trade me and keep my brother. And they're like, no, this is the worst outcome.
Uh, yeah, sure. We'll just cut him afterwards.
Yeah, they're like, we're going to cut this guy as soon as we fucking can. I hate the NASA's so much. Um, but like, what other league do you even talk about this stuff in? It's like
Yeah,
Miles Garrett demanded a trade. You and I have not had one conversation about like, where do you think Miles Garrett's going to go? What would be a good fit for Miles Garrett?
yeah. Well, and the hard cap of the NFL makes that a lot more difficult. Um, you know, I've seen people throw out the lines as a potential destination for him, and as nasty as that would be, like he's not coming to Detroit because we got too many contracts to line up. Like I've heard Philly floated out there, but like I feel like it's kind of the same deal there. Like there's just too many contracts to deal with.
Well, that's the thing is like the only teams that can really take on the salary with like the dead cap and all that stuff is like shitty teams.
Yep.
It's like so like the Patriots could trade for him,
Yeah.
but then we're gonna have to give up our first round pick to get Miles Garrett. I don't even want to do that. with as great as Myles Garrett is, I don't want to give up my first round pick for Myles Garrett. It's too much of an advantage if we get a great guy on a rookie deal. So the NFL is just different, but like hockey and baseball don't have this either. There's not
Yeah.
like baseball players like, Shohei Ohtani left the Angels and went to the Dodgers, but he didn't go to the Angels halfway through the season and be like, I demand you trade me to the Dodgers. Just doesn't happen that way. Although the Angels should have fucking traded him. That was the dumbest thing that anybody's. I don't know what was more stupid, Dallas trading Luka without shopping him, or the Angels being like, we think we can keep Ohtani after Ohtani's like, I'm leaving this offseason. You should trade me. And they were just like, no, we don't think we will. We'll convince you. It'll be fine. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's the NBA superpower, and they've dominated headlines this week, even through Super Bowl media week, where every single show is still leading off with like, did you see what Nico Harrison said yesterday? Or like, oh my God, they just traded for Mark Williams. Look at the LA's new starting lineup. It's Luka, LeBron, Dorian Finney-Smith, Rui Hachimura, and Mark Williams. Can they win the championship? Blah, blah, blah. So that is the one big leg up that the NBA has on every other league. And I think they know that. And I think that they, like, to a degree, are happy with player empowerment because of that. But
Yeah. I was just trying to figure out like what team might potentially not be terrible that should take a run at Garrett. What about Arizona? They
yeah,
don't have fast rushers at all, and they're not in any sort of position to go get a quarterback. So why
yeah, that,
not?
I feel like this is the thing though, is like
Yeah.
in the NBA, when Luka gets traded somewhere, that team
Mhm.
becomes a championship contender
Yeah.
because there are so few guys that are on the court at one time. And,
Yeah.
one guy can bring it. It's like if the Cardinals go and trade away the amount of capital required to get Myles Garrett, what does that make them?
Yeah.
Playoff team? Maybe they play in a pretty tough
Yeah.
division. Like
Maybe. Yeah.
maybe you got to give away like two
Yeah.
first round picks for maybe.
Yeah. And, well, and that's the thing is like they are in this no man's land of you either need to strip down and restart or go all in to be maybe.
Yeah, I feel like they probably are leaning towards the latter. Like that's not.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to shit on your idea of the Cardinals because I do think that
No.
makes sense. But
Yeah.
I'm just saying that's why like we're not sitting here having Myles Garrett conversations is because like
Yeah.
if he goes to someone like Buffalo or Baltimore, then it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But like it's way more likely he goes to someone like Arizona or Carolina, and we're like,
Hmm.
okay, we'll see.
Yeah.
Although it would be extremely ironic if Carolina spent all this stuff to go get Myles Garrett after they traded away Brian Burns for pennies on the dollar. So,
That would
uh,
be fucking hilarious.
but that is it for us. As always, Fouled Out can be found on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Pocket Cast, Overcast, anywhere you get your podcast. You can hit us up on Gmail, fouledoutsports@gmail.com. And you can find our videos on TikTok, Fouled Out Sports Podcast. It is a long name, but you can't miss it. I've kind of figured out the TikTok thing. I can access it from my computer. So I don't know. Probably we'll let you know when there's an update. Everybody enjoy the Super Bowl. It is this weekend. Um, yeah, this was a hard one to talk about when I was doing podcast prep. I was like, what do we do? Uh,
Hey, last one.
last one, what?
Last one, and then the Super Bowl's over. We get to move on.
Oh, that's true. Um, Matt and I will
We
be
did
back.
it.
Yeah, Matt and I will be back next week to break down whatever happened during the Super Bowl and talk about the game and what it means and start looking at the NFL off season here. And then the next couple pods after that, we're probably going to start talking a little basketball
Yeah.
until we get to March Madness, talk a little NBA, maybe have some guests on to do that, talk about some maybe a sport that's a little bit more wide open, a little bit
Yeah.
more fun.
Maybe maybe finish our top 30.
That would be fantastic. So, all
Oh
right,
my
my
God,
friend.
that'd be hilarious.
Yeah. All right, my friend. I will talk to you soon.
Yep. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys. Bye,
Bye,
Mike.
Robin.